bad long-term consequences. I purchased these Ouija boards specifically. In those cases, it might be dangerous. Probably everyone at some point was wondering if it's possible to talk to spirits. When I say spirits, I assume either people who passed away or maybe even some demons. In today's video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the Ouija board, probably the most famous and popular device for communication with spirits. In the beginning, I'm going to tell you the history of the Ouija board. After that, I will make a brief tutorial on how to use it properly in order to achieve the best results. Then I'm going to analyze with you why so many people say that Ouija board works and what exactly made it so famous. Finally, I will make my own conclusion about the Ouija board and share my personal opinion on it. If you're interested in any of those parts in particular, feel free to use the timestamps. However, I highly encourage you to watch the whole video because I'm going to tell you really important information that you should know before using the Ouija board. According to one theory, the name Ouija comes from a combination of the words yes in French and German. In French, yes will be oui, and in German it will be ja or ja if you pronounce it in English. As a result, oui plus ja will be Ouija. However, many spiritualists disagree with this theory and claim that the name Ouija was created by William Fuld, the first person who started manufacturing Ouija boards and selling them commercially. According to his explanation, the word Ouija means good luck in Egyptian. During the American Civil War, many people lost their friends and family members. As a result, they were looking for ways to communicate with the spirits of the deceased. And that's exactly when the spiritualist movement gained its popularity. The existential goal of the spiritualist movement was to prove that the life after death exists and that it's possible to communicate with the spirits of the deceased people. Also, they were trying to prove that there are people who have supernatural abilities that allow them to communicate with the world of the dead. These people were calling themselves mediums. In order to prove to ordinary people that they have supernatural abilities, mediums were conducting public shows where they were demonstrating their skills. According to many religions, each person or animal has a soul, a spiritual part of a human being or animal. Therefore, spiritualists took a concept from an already established belief system for many people and used it as a fundamental idea of their movement. Also, the grief from the death of loved ones made people even more vulnerable and easy to manipulate. Some mediums claimed that they were gifted with supernatural abilities and could communicate with spirits directly. However, others used special devices for communication. As a result, the first Ouija board was created in 1890 in Maryland, Baltimore. Originally, the Ouija board is a wooden board with the letters of the Latin alphabet, digits, and sometimes words such as yes, no, goodbye, or hello. That's pretty much all you need to know about the history of the creation of the Ouija board. Now, let me explain you how to use it. I will describe the whole ritual and you can follow these steps if you want to try it yourself. However, if you are a very sensitive person, I would recommend doing it with your friends or someone who you can trust and feel comfortable around. Step 1. Choose the right place. The place where you will use the Ouija board has to be quiet and dark in order to create a necessary atmosphere. Make sure that nothing will bother you throughout the whole session because sometimes they can be quite long. It's recommended to have 2 or more participants to achieve better results. Step 2. Get with your friends in a circle. Before you start, make sure that everyone knows what you are going to do and what kind of entities you want to communicate with. After that, make sure that everyone is comfortable and has enough space to perform the ritual. Put the Ouija board in the middle on the table or any other smooth surface. Step 3. Before you start, you should select one person who will ask questions. Everyone should put their fingers on the planchette, not pressing too hard. Eventually, it will start moving over letters. You will see letters through the hole in the center and you just use those letters to spell words. However, sometimes it will hover over the yes or no words. Therefore, you can start your session by asking something like, "Are there any spirits around us right now?" If you get the answer yes, you can ask your next questions. However, before you do that, there is an optional step. Step 4, optional. Some people like to start the Ouija session with an opening ritual. For example, they pray or meditate or do anything that can get them in the right mood. However, as I said, this step is optional, and if everyone is ready, you can proceed to the next step. Step 5. Start the ritual. Now you need to start asking questions. Make sure that questions are appropriate and polite. Being unnecessarily rude can have really bad long-term consequences. Sometimes spirits might give you indirect responses. Make sure you interpret them and try to understand the symbolism. Step 6. After you finished asking questions, you can end the session. If you want to, you can perform the end session ritual. For example, you can pray again or meditate or do whatever you prefer. However, as I said before, make sure that it is polite and appropriate. I think it's important to mention that if at some point someone feels uncomfortable or scared during the session, you should stop immediately. Now I will show you something. I purchased this Ouija board specifically for this video. As you can see, my board has the Latin alphabet digits and the words yes, no and goodbye. It is pretty small and not as fancy as the boards that I showed you in the video, but you can still use it the same way as those other boards. The biggest difference and the problem that I've noticed is that the surface of my board is more rough and it requires more force to move my planchette around. And believe me, this is very important. Later in this video I will explain to you why. So while watching this video you might start wondering why this board became so famous in the first place. Undeniably, this board is one of the most important symbols of mysticism in modern pop culture. But why? Why specifically this board and not something else? The answer is pretty simple. Many people report that it actually works. For example, some of your friends might have told you that they've used it and it actually works. For instance, they might tell you that they were able to talk to their deceased relative. On the one hand, we could just conclude that the Ouija board actually works and magic exists. On the other hand, we should try to explain every phenomenon using science. Fortunately, people conducted a lot of research to study the phenomenon of the Ouija board and found a scientific explanation. The key to understanding why people think the Ouija board works is the ideomotor phenomenon. Some people might be worried that it's a difficult scientific model or concept and it might be hard to understand, but don't worry. I will break it down for you and make sure that you completely understand it. Let's say you're in class or in the office at work. Your colleague or classmate asks you to pass them a pen. You grab a pen and pass it. Pretty simple, right? Now let's try to break down what exactly happened. You bent your arm in order to reach an area of the desk with the pen. You bent your fingers in order to grab it, and you moved your shoulder to give it to your friend. Now it seems more complex, right? So when you do something as simple as passing a pen to your friend, you have to make a lot of pretty complex movements. However, you don't think about each of them separately. You just have a thought in your brain, I need to pass a pen, and you do it automatically because your brain already knows what to do. Therefore, your thoughts can influence the movements of your body. Okay, now let's assume you believe in ghosts and spirits. When you use the Ouija board, your brain will expect that your hand on the planchette will move. Consequently, your brain will subconsciously send your muscles a signal that your hands have to move. Moreover, let's assume you want to communicate with a particular dead person. Your hands will move to letters on the Ouija board due to signals from your brain. As a result, we were able to find a scientific explanation of why so many people report that the Ouija board is real. They say that it feels like an external force moves their hands. However, it's just their brain that sends signals to their muscles, and this phenomenon is called ideomotor phenomenon. Considering everything I said before, I would like to make a conclusion about the Ouija board and just tell you what I personally think about it. In my opinion, it depends on your perception. If you think that it's just a fun toy to play around with and you don't take it seriously, I don't think that there is anything bad about it. However, there are many vulnerable people who might have lost their loved ones and the grief might force them to reach out to so-called mediums. In those cases, it might be dangerous and harmful because those mediums tend to convince people into believing that they actually can help them and trick them into spending huge amounts of money. Some people might use the Ouija board to manipulate you. You should always be careful and critically analyze everything. Thank you so much for watching my video, I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss my future videos. I'm planning to make more videos about mysticism and magic in the future, so please consider subscribing. Also, right now you can see all my social media platforms on the screen. Feel free to check out my other content on those platforms. Again, thank you so much for watching my video and stay safe.